This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening. We start tonight with something that will, in all likelihood, drastically affect everybody in this province: sinking oil prices. The markets opened today to plummeting prices. Here and Now's Heather Gillis has that story.
Certainly it's the largest single one-time drop that I can think of, and I've been in this business for 32 years.
Prices for Brent crude have taken a tumble from more than $50 a barrel last week down to about $34 a barrel today.
That's off by 18%. It was off by over 20% at the start today.
That's leaving many in the financial world speculating.
We've never seen as dramatic a drop as we've seen in the last few days. And if it goes on beyond 3, 5, 7 months, then certainly it's going to have to cause some sort of repercussions in terms of how much money the government is going to be taking in and what they're going to be able to spend it on.
Larry Short says the drop is fueled by weakening demand for oil amid concerns over the coronavirus and because Saudi Arabia and Russia are in a price war. Back in the fall, the province budgeted for oil prices to be at $63 a barrel. It estimated it would take in about $1.1 billion in offshore royalties, and the big drop in oil prices will have a deep impact.
Put this in context for us. How big are these losses?
They're huge. Whether it's 500 million or 700 million, the net effect is that it is going to be devastating.
Meanwhile, MUN economics professor Wade Locke says the drop in oil prices could also hurt the province's credit rating and even lower our standard of living.
If this persists, then I would expect that your credit rating will go down and the cost of borrowing will go up. We need to produce more oil if we're going to maintain the standard of living, and if we don't produce more oil or a certain revenue source, then what will happen is that your material standard of living will fall. So you may have to wait longer for hospitals, you may have to pay higher taxes, you may have less quality roads.
And Locke says it could trigger a recession.
One of the biggest components of our GDP is oil.
Both Larry Short and Wade Locke agree that this drop in oil prices is bad for the provincial economy. However, the question that remains is how long will it last? Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Every $1 drop in the price of oil costs the province $20 million in annual revenues.
Well, as you might expect, the price of oil is the talk of the legislature. The question is, what impact will those low prices have on our province's finances? Here now, Peter Cowan joins us live from the newsroom with that angle on the story. So, Peter, you were talking with the finance minister this afternoon. What's he saying?
He's keeping a close eye on it, but he says it's not time to panic because the big issue really depends: how long does this drop last? If this is just a little blip and the prices come back up, then the impact will be very minimal. However, if this turns into a long-term trend, that's where things start to get dicey. And let's take a look at the numbers that Chess Crosby mentioned there, just off the top there. Every $1 drop in the price of oil leads to about a $20 million problem for the provincial government. But that's only if those prices stay for an entire year. Just a short-term issue, that's not going to be a big problem. But this is coming right before budget season, and officials right now are crunching those numbers and keeping a very close eye on what oil prices do.
I can say with certainty that it will impact borrowing. If it's for any prolonged period, I can say with certainty it will impact the deficit. We don't have finite numbers to share with you today, but we will continue to analyze this and monitor it, and we will be able to share more information as we get it. I think that the general public deserve to know the numbers. As we get them, we will share it.
And speaking of sharing, the finance minister actually sat down not too long ago with both the NDP and the PC leaders to outline the issue and talk to them. But what the PCs are looking for is a whole lot more information to be made public.
He talks about open door. We've asked for open book. And so hopefully today the minister will come clean and actually show us what's in the fiscal forecast for the province and where we're looking and where we're going.
Now, this issue of oil prices is actually spilling over to some of the other issues that the legislature is dealing with. One of those is interim supply, which basically means that the government can keep spending money even before a budget is put in place. Right now, government says it wants 6 months of authorization, when the opposition is saying, hold on a second, if oil prices are volatile and things may change, let's only put in 3 months in place because we want a full budget to be able to look at the spending in detail and adjust the plans if they're needed, Anthony.
All right, thank you, Pete. That's Peter Cowan reporting live from our newsroom tonight. Now, one other note to our top story this evening. It comes from NOIA, the Oil and Gas Industries Association in the province. People there tell us that they are closely monitoring what's happening, but NOIA also cautions that people should take the long-term view because we often see temporary price fluctuations in the world of oil prices. And they're off. The world's longest and definitely toughest snowmobile race began in Lab City on the weekend. Cane's Quest got underway with all 50 teams taking a turn at the start line. Nice sunny conditions there. Some competitors, pretty happy crowds. They are from as far away as Finland, but many are Labrador to the core. And they all got ahead of them a journey, I should say they have ahead of them, a journey of more than 3,000 kilometers. But this year's race shaping up to be the fastest ever. The leading teams could cross the finish line as early as Wednesday night. And you can follow the race online, and we'll have more coverage from the race in the days to come.
As Anthony mentioned, it is quite fast. Already taking a look at where those racers are right now. They're actually in the southeastern portion of Labrador, and the weather has been absolutely gorgeous. You saw from those pictures, plenty of sunshine, but the temperatures are cold right now. We've got an area of high pressure over Labrador right now, bringing in some of that colder air. We do have extreme cold warnings in place from essentially for Lab West, and then up through the northern portion of Labrador as well. Wind chills tonight into the minus 40s for you. Otherwise, we're looking at wind chills still quite cold as well. By morning, you're looking at temperatures in southeastern Labrador into the mid-minus 20s. Your wind chills will be feeling closer to the minus 30s as well. And as we head through the day, those temperatures are going to climb up quite nicely, but we are still looking at plenty of sunshine, minus 16 for Cartwright, minus 12 for Mary's Harbour, but your winds are going to be a little bit strong. Westerlies between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. So let's look at Labrador's forecast. We'll look at the weather coming up for the next couple of days for the island and the rest of the province when I come back.
And Guju is good again.
As the man says, Guju is good, so good that he is going to the World Championships again. That story and celebration still to come. To Memorial University now, where a high-profile professor has taken a stance against university cuts, and he did so on Twitter. As Terry Roberts reports, there's growing concern about how cutbacks will affect students as well as the university's reputation.
Why is it that we have tax rates that are lower than the other Atlantic Canadian provinces?
Like most political scientists, Russell Williams is not shy about expressing an opinion. But this tweet on Friday caught some extra attention. Williams announced he's quitting as head of the political science department, saying he can't get behind MUN's budgetary situation. The final straw being asked to cut 20% of his department's course offerings for next year. He says the province's yearly budget cuts to MUN are short-sighted and are slowly eroding the university. It's very sad, and the savings are either minimal or non-existent, he wrote. Professor Williams would not do a recorded interview, saying he didn't want to make this story about him. But he worries that cuts to programming here at MUN could make it harder for students to finish their degrees on time. The cuts are a legacy of 4 years of grant reductions from the provincial government, down by roughly $40 million, and signals that millions more will be slashed for the coming year.
I think once we see department heads starting to express their concerns, that's the tip of an iceberg.
The Faculty Association says students should be worried.
There's one department head now that stepped away. There's probably many, many others that are implementing these cuts right now as we speak.
And per-course instructors are likely to feel the brunt of these cuts.
It's an ugly state of affairs here, and the government really should listen.
The university is not commenting today, but the outgoing president has spoken about the challenges.
We're down to actually cutting core people and staff.
MUN has been cutting staff through retirement incentives and attrition, deferring millions in maintenance, and now it appears programs are being targeted.
This has an impact on our programs and our reputation and our ability to be able to deliver programs.
All this in an era where tuition rates, already some of the lowest in the country, have remained frozen, especially for local students. The debate over tuition has raged for years, with government reluctant to allow increases. But despite budget cuts, the province still provides some 80% of MUN's general operating revenues, nearly twice the Canadian average. The government is not commenting, saying this is all part of the province's budgetary process. But it's clear that Memorial University is shrinking. Some would even say starving. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, one man is dead and a woman is in critical condition tonight after crashing a snowmobile in central Newfoundland. It happened Saturday night near Appleton. The pair were both riding on a snowmobile when they went off a groomed trail and struck a number of trees. Police say the 48-year-old man died at the scene while the 47-year-old woman was taken to hospital with serious injuries. Police believe speed was a factor in the crash, and they're also investigating to determine whether alcohol played a role. Well, there's a call from NAPE tonight for an end to doctor's notes being needed for sick days. The union that represents most government workers in the province says it's sounding the alarm because of COVID-19 concerns. The Labour Standards Act in this province says that any employee who is on sick leave for 3 or more workdays must get a doctor's note. But NAPE wants that requirement dropped. The union says hospitals and doctors' offices are already seeing heavy traffic because of cold and flu season, and now all of that is being exacerbated by the need to provide notes to employers.
We've had the unfortunate opportunity to be in emergency departments where half the people there are there because they have a common cold or influenza, and many of them just to get that medical certificate. They know what's wrong with them. They've been treating themselves, but because they've lapsed 2 days now, I got to go get that note, or I've lapsed 3 days, they're going to go get that medical note. So this is not just union saying it. This is the Canadian Medical Association, the Newfoundland Labrador Medical Association have said it up to 2 years ago.
Now, Earl believes workers should be trusted to police themselves and not abuse sick days. However, the council that represents many businesses in the province says that's not practical, especially for those who have problems with absenteeism.
The provincial government spends somewhere around $125 million a year annually on sick leave. So what they spend now on sick leave is greater than what we spend on road construction in this province. And for some departments and some managers within government and within the private sector, the right to require a sick note is an absolutely essential tool, and we shouldn't just do away with it.
A new program in Balleen is helping tackle food insecurity in that community, helping residents to get quality food at a price they can afford. The CBC's Alex Kennedy has the story, the latest in our Fed Up series.
Oh, I think it's wonderful.
Carol King received one of Balleen's first community food hampers last month. She's also a town councillor who needed a little help.
For me, yes, it's great. I get to share it with my grandkids and my kids, especially the big tubs of strawberries and the big bunch of bananas and stuff.
Getting quality, affordable food in this province can be a challenge. Many might not know where their next meal is going to come from. So the town of Balleen came up with a food hamper program called Bulk Buy. It's laying the groundwork for a plan to provide residents with food at a price they can afford.
Food it's a basic need. It's good to have access to all that good food, clean, healthy, for our residents, so that, especially in the winter months, which is the focus of this program, when they might not be able to get out to the stores because of the snow and the ice.
Through the Bulk Buy program, residents pay $20. That money gets matched thanks to a healthy living grant from the provincial government. Once all the money is collected, volunteers buy the groceries wholesale and put together the hampers themselves.
It was just an idea that I had.
Donna Connors is the town's assistant town manager and brought the idea to the town after her experiences in nonprofits.
It's very, very easy. I've already been in contact with lots of other communities who are interested in how to get it off the ground. You can run it with a couple of people.
And people like Carol King immediately see the benefits.
The kids love that stuff. Little gifts from Nanny and Poppy go a long way with them.
Last month, the town made 10 food hampers here at the community center. This month, the number will grow to 25. They say that's all they can handle for right now, but hope to expand the program in the future. Alex Kennedy, CBC News, Pauline.
All right, we're going to get to a story that we reported just a moment ago. Quick update to Terry Roberts' story. MUN's Planning Committee is making recommendations tonight. This, according to a report that just came out. The major suggestion, it wants to increase undergraduate tuition rates as well as student fees. The committee says student fees are the only significant source of revenue the university has. It also wants to set an annual inflation rate for tuition based on the Consumer Price Index. Well, Brad Gujou is now a three-time Brier champion. The St. John's skip shot 97% last night, 97, incredible, and defeated Team Alberta and claimed his third title in just 4 years. The always energetic Devin Haru was there, and he has offered here and now this commentary.
With his final stone, the arms go up, and Gujou is good again.
It wasn't all that long ago that Brad Gujou wondered if he would ever hoist the historic Brier tankard. Besides, he had been to the tournament 13 times, leaving in heartbreak every one of those times. But things have changed. Gujou, Mark Nichols, Brett Gallant, and Jeff Walker have now won the title 3 of the last 4 years, a remarkable run. And perhaps what makes this win so impressive is that they did it against the best Brier field ever. Consider some of the names at this year's tournament, some of the best ever to play the game. And when they needed to bring their A game, they brought it in the championship. Gujou curling 97% and guiding the team to victory. It's Gujou's 143rd Brier win, more than any other skips. Now they get to wear the maple leaf and represent Canada once again. They'll get to wear the maple leaf at the Brier again next year as well. And you have a feeling they might just have a few more Brier titles in them. For CBC Sports in Toronto, I'm Devin Haru.
Congratulations, Newfoundland and Labrador.
We may have lost an hour, but it's lovely to see the sun hanging around this time of the evening. When we come back, I'll let you know what's in the forecast for the week.
It was worth the lost hour.
It really was.
Earlier we showed you the Canes Quest starting line, plus you saw that Ashley inherited Jacob Barker's Skidoo going on by their Canes Quest forecast. Now that snowmobile race is happening right now, right across Labrador.
Yeah, so let's take a look from another angle. These were taken by official race photographer Scott Grant, who is also shooting the race from above.
Yeah, 50 teams began the grueling race on Saturday. At least one team is already out because of equipment failure. It always happens. And as we mentioned, the top teams could complete that 3,000-kilometer course as early as Wednesday night. A very fast field out there, and our Meg Roberts was there, and she's going to have another of her features from Canes Quest tomorrow on Here and Now, so don't miss that. It's an amazing race, right?
It is. It's pretty wonderful. And I mean, the weather has been spectacular so far, so that's great.
Maybe a record.
Maybe.
Thanks to. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Lots of records this year, potentially.
Where shall we start? My back is still kind of limber from the weekend.
From the weekend.
But you know, I have to say, after getting the driveway done, it started to melt and it felt like the most spring-like snow removal yet.
It does feel
Not
that
saying
way.
much, mind you, but, you know, of the year.
Well, I mean, once we start to get that sun back and the sun angle gets higher, you know, everything melts a little quicker. But yeah, we saw another 22 centimeters here in St. John's, which, if you're keeping track of that, is about 398 centimeters is what we've seen so far. So
almost 4 meters.
Almost. So we're still well off the record, but there you go.
All right.
Let's take a look at those temperatures now. Yeah, this is where we were sitting most of the day, or at least the first half of the day. And if you've been outside anytime recently, you notice that those temperatures have certainly dropped down into the minus double digits rather. But it's because we have a couple of systems in play. We've got an area of low pressure offshore, area of high pressure dominating. That's what's bringing in that colder air and keeping the winds a little bit brisk thanks to that low offshore with that. So we are seeing wind chills today, certainly across most of the Big Land and then the Northern Peninsula as well. And then wind chills really anywhere along the island are looking into the minus teens as we speak. So here's the future tracker, just a chance of a few maybe onshore flurries along the west coast, around the Corner Brook area as we head through the night tonight, and then potentially Bonavista North. Otherwise, that high pressure really is dominating, and it's going to be a quiet night for most of us as we head through the night. But again, those cold temperatures. So Lab West under extreme cold warning, same for Nain and then the Northern Peninsula. You're looking at wind chills in the minus 30s up through Labrador. That's closer to the mid-minus 40s by the time the morning rolls around. So here's where your temperatures are going to be sitting. Minus 36 for Lab City, but those winds are light. That's why your wind chills aren't that bad compared to that temperature. It's not going to feel too much worse than that. Minus 26 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Plenty of clear skies expected through the night tonight. Down in Grand Falls, Windsor, those lower lying areas likely into the minus 20s overnight. Minus 16 for Corner Brook, minus 14 for St. John's. If you do have any plans tonight, just make sure that you do bundle up. And again, it's because of those wind chills. So overnight tonight, wind chills nearing the mid-minus 20s, minus 19 for St. John's, and then again up through Labrador, certainly into the minus 30s, and even more so as we head into the morning hours. So when you do head out tomorrow, even though it'll be plenty of sunshine, it will be chilly. So the high pressure is going to take hold for a little bit through the day on Tuesday. Then we'll start to see some high cloud move in. That's ahead of our next weather maker, and expecting that to bring some snow with it as well as we head towards the evening hours. Metro area, you'll likely start to see some snow overnight, or at least late evening into the overnight hours, and that's going to spread across most of the island by the time we head into Wednesday morning. Maybe a couple of centimeters by the time the morning rolls around, certainly for the Avalon. Minus 7 will be the afternoon high. Have that sun in there because that will be mainly the story. That snow won't really move in until the evening, but those winds are going to stay brisk, 20 to 40 kilometers per hour expected. As we head towards central Grand Falls, Windsor, slight chances some flurries again moving in towards the evening hours. Along the south coast, you'll probably pick up about 10 to 15 centimeters with this one by Wednesday morning, and then even more so as we head through the day on Wednesday. Winds will be generally light along the west coast, minus 7 for Corner Brook. It's going to take a little while to get to these temperatures just because some of that warmer air is moving in with it and then staying into those minus teens, but plenty of sunshine as that ridge of high pressure holds for you. Minus 16 for Cartwright, and then as we head towards Lab City, you'll start to see that snow move in as well, and your temperature will be hanging into the minus 17-degree range. So that's a look at your forecast. We'll look ahead to Wednesday. We'll talk about how much more snow is going to fall when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, keeping with the weather, freeze, thaw, repeat. That's a great recipe for potholes. And in CBS, flat tires and dented rims have many people peeved. At least that's the polite way to put it. Here now's Adam Walsh has that story.
You hit that going normal speed, you're destroying your rims and your tires.
Jennifer Anthony is fed up with her daily commute up and down Route 60 in Conception Bay South.
Every day, it's, it's a battle trying to get from A to B without, destroying something.
And she's not alone. These are from the CBS Community Voice Facebook page. Post after post about pothole problems. People have kept their sense of humor despite losing their tires. Here's a look at Jennifer Anthony's winter losses. So far, 2 tires and 2 rims. And it's all because of potholes like this one and this one. Because Route 60 is a provincial road, the province is in charge of repairs.
It's a never-ending battle. The potholes are occurring on a regular basis, and some of them are quite large. A lot of damage to vehicles, and something I'm discussing with the officials within the department and the minister, and we're hopeful that some permanent repairs will be coming in this coming season.
But for Jennifer Anthony, the problem is also the weight.
My first damaged tire, it's 3, almost 4 weeks ago now, and the pothole that I did that on was just coal patched on Friday.
The message from local government, a request for patience.
It's better to stop and wait rather than just pull out into oncoming traffic. So, we're just saying be safe. We're going to continue to work with the government, and we'll see what we can get done over the winter.
For its part, the Department of Transportation and Works says staff conduct road checks daily and note the location of potholes. Then, when the weather allows, they patch them. Adam Walsh, CBC News, Conception Bay South.
Offshore oil revenues are such an important source of income for our province. Oil prices tanking, but it may not be time to panic. Stay tuned. Finance Minister Tom Osborne told reporters this afternoon if the oil price situation continues, our province is going to have no choice but to borrow a lot of money. I want to get some analysis now on what the falling price of oil means for our province. Got Larry Short with us. So Larry, what's your sense? Why does this matter to us?
Well, basically, it's the single largest source of income to the province, and the budget was done somewhere, north of $65 a barrel, and we're roughly $35 a barrel today. So it's pretty scary there right now.
When you take a look at the international events that have happened, both the coronavirus plus the decisions by Saudi Arabia to flood the market, we have no control over this.
This is really early days. I mean, we do not know if this is a game of tic-tac-toe with the Russians. I mean, are they looking to negotiate in public, or is this a game of chess that they're playing and they have a long game in mind here? There's speculation that the real target are the American fracking companies, that both the Saudis and the Russians want to put that industry out of business. And if they are effective in some way in doing that, they'll actually cause long-term oil prices to rise.
Okay, but in the short term, I guess, we're sort of are we just like geopolitical watchers of what's going on?
Yeah, we're caught in the crossfire. Potentially it could be resolved. I mean, if this is really negotiation between the Saudis and the Russians, there could be a solution any time. And again, this is all intention. There's no actual increase in oil shipments yet. The deal between the Russians and the Saudis expire, I think, at the end of March. So there's still some time there. It's just that the reaction to the market has been as strong as we've seen in the last hours, really.
All right, but let's say that this actually persists for a number of weeks, because obviously sustained oil prices at this level are going to have an impact on our province's purse.
Right. So as part of any planner, you plan for the worst, and then if you have an event happen, that is different from the worst, then you're pleasantly surprised. So contingencies had to be drawn up, opportunities had to be seen, for what's there, because one of the benefits, and it is a benefit, is the fact that long-term interest rates have now fallen quite significantly. We're expecting further rate cuts in both Canada and the U.S. and around the world, really, over the next period of time. So if you are going to borrow, the opportunity is coming up sometime soon to get really, really low interest rates. And that may prove to be an advantage in the long run. But all of this is tenured on the question of, is this a short-run event, or is it something that's going to be 6, 8, 10 months out?
All right, so don't panic just yet.
Yes, don't panic just yet. We've got a hole in the side of the boat. It doesn't mean that we're sinking imminently, but get your life preservers, life vests on, know where they are. And then plan that in the event that this does go longer than we'd hoped for. And just one other point there. If indeed the fracking companies in the United States are forced into bankruptcy, because they're really teetering on the edge in many cases, and other long-term drilling opportunities are put to one side because of the worry that this has created, it actually means that long-term interest rates rise, and it means offshore here actually looks better.
All right, Larry Short, appreciate your thoughts and analysis. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Returning now to our national series on ending domestic violence, a new law is taking hold in several provinces, including here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Clare's Law gives police the power to reveal a partner's criminal past. Now, the details are still being worked out on how this law is going to be implemented here and in other provinces. Salima Shivji has more.
Do you want to read it? More than 3 years later, talking about it still takes its toll.
Curly hair like you too. You feared for your life. Even when you say that, I get chills still. I didn't think I was going to make it out that day.
The hours-long beating at the hands of her ex, so severe, the responding police officer couldn't believe his eyes.
He said other than one woman lying in a pool of her own blood, he'd never seen anybody in that type of state. That's you walking.
Patrizia Giampaolo found the strength to navigate the court system and press charges. That fact could now help other women because of a new law.
There is still a crisis of domestic violence.
Alberta is one of several provinces implementing Clare's Law. Not only can victims ask if their partner has a history of domestic assault, police can also decide to tell them if they see a risk. One problem, this violence is a notoriously underreported crime. The stigma paralyzes many, especially in minority communities. Humera Falak works with victims to fight that reluctance to speak out. She's also been through it herself.
This is like emergency protection order.
A thick police file for 5 years of constant abuse with 2 kids she feared losing.
In that case, if there is no record, Clare's Law won't really help. But that doesn't mean that it should not be there.
For police, it's a balancing act as provinces are still working out how much to divulge.
We want to make sure that we provide the information in a responsible way, but we also want to balance privacy of the people that they're making application on.
He says there will be extra support to help victims process any information they receive. That's essential for Patrizia Giampaolo. As unsure as she is about how the law will work, she sees it as an important tool to help women trying to find a way out of a vicious cycle of abuse. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Calgary.
Now, you can read stories from right across the country at cbc.ca/stopping domestic violence. You'll find a link on that page to crisis lines in every province and territory in the country. But as always, if you are in immediate danger and need help, call 911. And for further assistance and resources in your area, visit sheltersafe.ca or endingviolencecanada.org.
I want to know where my food comes from. I want to be part of the production process of my own food. I want to eat healthy food. I want to eat better food.
And he's not alone, tapping into a new talent. Canada is recording its first death linked to the ongoing coronavirus outbreak.
Unfortunately, have had a death here in British Columbia. One of the residents of the Lynn Valley Care Home who was infected with COVID-19 passed away last night.
Now, across the country, there are now more than 70 people with COVID-19. Ontario and BC have just over 30 cases each. The rest are in Alberta and Quebec, but health officials say the overall risk in Canada still remains low. Well, as it gets ready to bring back Canadian passengers from a coronavirus-hit cruise ship off California, the federal government issued a warning today for any other citizens who are planning ocean voyages.
Today, the Public Health Agency of Canada is recommending that Canadians avoid all cruise ship travel due to COVID-19.
The Grand Princess, with its 3,500 passengers and crew, was finally allowed to dock today after days in limbo. The delay came after 21 people on it tested positive for the virus. Out of the 237 Canadians looking to board the government-chartered flight, only those who show up without symptoms will be allowed to fly. The plane is expected to reach Trenton, Ontario tomorrow, where the travelers will undergo 14 days of quarantine. Well, it may not feel like spring, but there are some hidden signs of salvation, such as maple syrup. This weekend, a workshop in St. John's taught people how to tap into a resource that might be in your very own backyard.
Basically what we do is every spring, this time of year, we come out to Mapey Park and we do an educational workshop series on how to make maple syrup at home.
Like I was saying.
I think the first workshop we had maybe about 12 or 15 people out to a single workshop. And now we're getting 120 plus to a series of workshops. This is only the first one of the year, but we'll probably run about 10 of these before the season is over.
It's firm. And then just have something like a hammer and just give it a couple gentle taps.
Well, I'm a homesteader, so I'm interested in DIY food. I want to know where my food comes from. I want to be part of the production process of my own food. I want to eat healthy food. I want to eat better food. And of course, as we've all seen through events like Snowmageddon, our food supply can get interrupted really easily. And one of the things that I think matters a great deal is having access to local food that we can produce ourselves, because that acts as a bit of an insulation against events like Snowmageddon. I didn't run out of maple syrup during Snowmageddon, that's for sure.
During the big snowstorm, Snowmageddon, that it's very obvious that whenever our supply chain of food is cut off, there's not a lot here. So learning how to kind of live off, get food from the land, and this is a part of it, I guess, you know, being able to tap maple trees, and you can have your maple syrup the whole year.
Maple the goat helps us out. Of course, she's the official mascot for maple syrup season, but she's also pack trained. So when we're tromping over snowbanks and carrying back 50 liters of maple syrup, Maple does her share too, and she gets paid in a little sweet taste of maple syrup, which is her favorite thing in the world. I think for artisanal producers, for you making maple syrup in your backyard at home, I think Newfoundland is better than anywhere else because our season is so well suited to it. What you need for perfect maple syrup production is cold nights and warm days, that sort of freeze-thaw cycle, and we have a more lengthy and prolonged freeze-thaw cycle here than I think they do anywhere else.
This here is hard
I think it's very important for us, especially for younger folks, for kids, to know where their food comes from. A lot of times, I grew up taking all that for granted. To me, food just came out of it was magic. It came out of plastic containers that were in limitless supply at the grocery store. I think knowing where our food comes from and what goes into it is important. I think it connects us with nature. I think it connects us with each other. I find it's been a really great community event. It brings people together for an annual event, a tradition they engage in every year that's healthy and that produces delicious food.
The weather update is brought to you by Beltone, your partner in better hearing.
Well, during our first weather conversation, I mentioned to you that I could sort of feel the snow melting a little faster after Sunday's dig out.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see it melt a little bit more this week.
Yeah, it depends on where you are and kind of what happens over the next couple of days. There's a little bit of a disagreement as we head towards the middle of the week.
Okay.
Let's take a look at that forecast. Just jump right into it for Wednesday. This is right now, temperature-wise, probably going to see mid-single digits for most of the Avalon, really most of eastern Newfoundland as we jump up above zero. Now, where the rain-snow line falls is what's a little bit up for debate right now. So I have those temperatures below zero for central, but more than likely either going to be hovering around zero or jump up through the day. But this is where you'll be sitting up in the big land, certainly into the minus teens, minus 15 for Nain, minus 12 for Lab City, and you are looking at that potential for some flurries. So here's a look at that system. This is just what Mud Model is pointing at. We're going to see that snow move in tomorrow night and then continue through the day on Wednesday. But it's this rain-snow line that we're going to watch. So as we head into the evening on Wednesday, this model's pushing it a little bit further east, or west rather, towards central, which means we could see a change over to potentially even some freezing rain through parts of central, and then certainly some rain for eastern Newfoundland, even ending as drizzle through central as well. So that low will move out. Things will clear out in behind that. But again, as far as snowfall goes, it is a pretty big range of snowfall. So if we do see most of that snow, if it moves towards central, you could pick up about 5 to 10 centimeters by the time that changes over or ends as drizzle. And then along the south coast again, probably closer to 10 to 15, and then for parts of the Avalon, 2, maybe 5 centimeters of snow is what it's looking at right now. But we are seeing a bullseye right now of potentially 20 to 30 centimeters. So certainly going to keep an eye on that forecast as we head into the day on Wednesday. So looking ahead, things will start to quiet down through Thursday. We'll see a big ridge of high pressure move in again. Not before we see some flurries up through Labrador and then along the west coast as well into the evening hours on Thursday. As that ridge moves in, things clear out, actually looking like a pretty beautiful Friday. And then the weekend rolls around and we're looking at another system moving in. This one taking, depending on the track, again, going to see lots of moisture with this one, it looks like right now, but it does look like it tracks up over Labrador, which means most of the island will be in that warm sector. So things will change over to rain. And take a look at some of those temperatures as well, well above the 0 degree mark, around 7 degrees by the time Saturday rolls around. And so things, you know, starting as snow, changing over to rain, and then dropping again into the evening hours, minus 4 by the time Saturday rolls around, or Saturday night. For central Newfoundland, sunshine for Friday, jumping up, certainly going to see those temperatures in the plus single digits. And then for western Newfoundland as well, have that risk of some freezing rain in there for you at this point, but we're definitely going to keep an eye on that forecast. For Labrador, flurries for Wednesday and Thursday, and then that ridge of high pressure. But look at your temperatures back up to the minus single digits by the time the weekend comes. And then same thing for western Labrador. We're looking at about minus 14 for you on Thursday with plenty of sunshine, and then back into that flurry activity. So it's that time of year. If you have a serious case of the winter blues, turns out it's not just an excuse to complain. It's actually something psychologists take seriously, and we have some animated advice for you for beating the winter blues with artwork by CBC's Katie Rowe and produced by Zach Gowdy.
The winter blues is indeed a real thing. It's something that we all feel to varying degrees, from quite mild, you know, being a little annoyed at, oh, it's another storm, right to about 2 to 6% of the population. It's an actual severe form of depression. Hi, my name's Dr. Janine Hubbard. I'm a registered psychologist and communications director with the Association of Psychology, Newfoundland and Labrador. It's that lethargy, it's that not wanting to leave the house, it's increased sleeping, it's lack of interest in activities, it's craving comfort foods, particularly carbohydrates. It's irritability. All of those things contribute to us just not enjoying ourselves and not enjoying the season. And the longer the winter goes on and the harsher the winter it is for us, the more of us may feel those symptoms. And I think this is a year where things did. They started very early and we have not had much of a reprieve. And then there's the scientific end that says there's something about our lack of exposure to sunlight, our lack of exposure to vitamin D, which actually can mess around with some of the chemicals in our brain. It affects serotonin, which is kind of helps regulate our mood, and melatonin, which is what regulates our sleep. And we know that those changes in the amount of sunlight and vitamin D that we're getting can really affect us on a physical and a psychological level. And it's funny, there are a lot of people who are almost afraid to disclose it because they think that we're just going to minimize it and say, everybody feels the winter blahs, get over it. And again, to a certain extent, we all do. Now, we'd never just say, get over it. There are lots of things we can do proactively, so there is help available. I think what you need to do to approach the winter blues, or as winter approaches, is embrace it. No, listen, we know it's coming. So figure out, what have I struggled with in the past and how can I combat that in the future? So maybe you felt really housebound, especially during storms, for example. So perhaps you plan proactively and say, okay, the next time I'm housebound for a storm, I have a project in mind. Whether it's sorting out a closet, whether it's making something in the shed, whether it's, you know what, I've got some knitting that I want to pull out, or we're going to pull out a jigsaw puzzle for the whole family to work on. Plan for some really fun indoor activities. Pull out a project and something that's going to actively engage your brain. And at the same time, let yourself have a little bit of vegging out on the couch as well.
Going to turn to an extremely serious international news story now. A criminal trial began in the Netherlands today in connection with the plane shot down over Ukraine in 2014. You might recall that incident killed 298 people. 4 former leaders of a Russia-backed militia unit stand accused of murder, but none of them are in court. Chris Brown reports.
The trial is happening right next to the runway where MH17 began its doomed flight 5.5 years ago. Family members said they've been waiting a long time.
I do hope the judge had so many evidence on his table that he can come to one conclusion: guilty.
The judges began by stating 4 former militia commanders had been given proper notice, yet none chose to appear, though one did hire a lawyer. All are accused of bringing a missile launcher from Russia into Ukraine, where it shot down the jet, killing everyone on board.
Op dit moment wil de rechtbank opmerken.
The impact of the loss of so many human lives can hardly be imagined, said the presiding judge.
Van Amran, Binwan Hussein.
Then, in a somber moment, the names of all 298 victims were read out loud.
It's very important to see the names and to read the names. That's all we have, though.
Indeed, a plaque in the ground is all that Pete Plo has of his brother. His body was never found.
I think it's very important to hear the evidence they have about, for instance, the role of the Russian state and the Russian army.
What's notable is who's not part of this trial. Dutch prosecutors have not named any member of the Russian crew that they believe fired the Buk missile, nor who gave the order. But this investigative journalist who's helped uncover key details in the case believes prosecutors know the answers and are holding back.
The question is what the political level, when they will stop and say that, like, okay, these people should be responsible. And I think that level will be pretty high.
In response, the defense lawyer used one of the Kremlin's favorite arguments, claiming the prosecution is flawed because the Dutch didn't investigate Ukraine for not closing its airspace. Chris Brown, CBC News, Amsterdam.
It's a popular destination, both winter and summer.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where this is too when we come back.
That is a great picture on a beautiful day, and everybody probably knows where that is. Well, certainly on the Avalon.
Definitely. The spout. You know, I was looking it up on the map, and I didn't realize how close it was to St. John's.
Yes, it's a bit of a hike to get there.
It's a hike to get there, but it's pretty close there. Thank you so much to...
Go ahead. To you, sir, or ma'am.
Exactly, for sending that in.
Van Houwelingen.
There you go. Yes. Thank you so much for sending that. And if you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
That's my birthday gift to Ashley, is to take the pronunciation of a difficult name, because yes, it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
It is. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, COVID.
Yeah.
Have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Good night. Yes.